All right, what's going on? I wanted to share this new guide that I just put together for you as part of this challenge. And if you want the link to the Google Doc, I'm going to throw it in the chat as well. So the purpose of this is just to give you a comprehensive list of strategies that you can use for eating out, traveling, parties, all the things that life gives us, which, let's be honest, is the norm rather than the exception, right? We like to think that we can have a plan and we're just going to stick to it every day and we're going to always cook at home and it's always be routine, but that's just not how life works. And as we're finding out from this challenge coming up, that for even just for 2 weeks, we haven't even started, and many of us are saying, "Oh, wait, I have this thing on Tuesday, and I have this thing next weekend, and this thing's coming up." And you could either say, this is not the right time. I'm going to do it at another time when things are routine, or you can say, no, life is like that. It's going to happen that way. And the whole point of a sustainable approach to your lifestyle, your nutrition, is that you can accommodate those things. So here's a list of things that I put together. It is a lot of items, and the idea here isn't just to do everything. It's to pick the things that make sense for you and the things that will get the creative juices flowing. And what I will do here is I'm not going to go over every single thing on the list because you'll see it's a pretty long list for eating out, traveling, and parties. And then I also would point you to two past podcast episodes. One was a long time ago, episode 20, and the other one was very recently, episode 106, that also go into these in much more detail. What I want to do today is just go over some highlighted items, given that we are in a 2-week challenge, and chances are the thing that will be most common is that you're going to go out or go to a party. Maybe you have, I think the Canadian Thanksgiving is coming up. I'm going out for a dinner with a group of folks on Tuesday night. Some of us might be traveling. Some of us may be going to visit family. Chances are, if you're doing the challenge, you're at home most of the time, but some of the time you may not be. And the calories are really tight. The protein has to stay high and the fats and carbs are pretty low. So what do you do? So this is the strategies. These are the strategies I like the most, and I've highlighted them in yellow. The first thing is just the general principle that planning is everything. Everything we do from here to the rest of your life when it comes to anything, when personal improvement is involved or your lifestyle and making choices aligned with your goals, is to take the emotion out of it, to think ahead, to plan ahead so that you don't have decision fatigue. The more you do this, the more it becomes intuitive, the more it becomes just natural, the more it becomes not really a plan so much as just how you live your life. But when there's change or when you're changing goals, like now for this 2-week challenge, just thinking ahead to, okay, what's happening Tuesday? What's happening Saturday? What's happening? And just being conscious of it right now so it doesn't sneak up on you, or so that you don't start that day without a plan and now have to choose as you go along, because that is already setting yourself up to not to fail, but to get off plan. So planning is everything. Okay. So one of the things I like to do is called a personal food plan. And this can be as precise or as loose as you want it to be. And this is just your guidelines for when you go into a new environment, like a party or someone else is cooking or whatever, that you have an idea of what kind of foods you're going to choose, in what order, how are you going to eat them, and so on. When the menu is nebulous, you may not know what it is. And let's be honest, almost anything you go to is going to have certain types of foods, no matter what. And if, for example, if I'm going to go to a party, I want to think about what kind of meats they're going to have there, right? What kind of vegetables, what kind of carbs, and make sure I choose my way through. Now, they may also have desserts. They may also have alcohol. And so you want to set guidelines for those as well. Alcohol guidelines too, as well as desserts, appetizers, etc. Right? It's just kind of thinking, what am I going to do in these situations? If there's going to be a bread basket, what am I going to do? Am I going to decline it? Am I going to choose one roll? Am I going to pre-log it so that I know that, hey, a bread roll can be like 150 calories? Is bread that wonderful that I want to have it versus some more steak or something? So just be logical ahead of time so that you're not too emotional in the moment, and have that plan ready to go. Okay. Another thing I like is pre-logging. So these next two kind of go hand in hand: pre-logging, preloading, the idea of just mapping your meal out ahead of time and thinking about what you might have so that you know how many calories and macros it is going to eat into your budget. So for me, for example, Tuesday night, I'm going to go out to a local restaurant. I know what menu they have. I know I'm going to probably want to eat something like 1,200 calories in that meal. I've not been drinking alcohol for months now, so I'm okay with that. I'm good with going with alcohol-free options anyway. I'm in this challenge. Alcohol is just kind of a waste of calories for me anyway. And alcohol tends to reduce inhibitions and causing you to eat more for the most part. But if I want 1,200 calories and my budget is 1,600, I could either take assume that I'm going to eat 1,200 calories, pre-log in a macro factor, or just kind of reserve those in my head, and then figure out that now I only have 400 calories for earlier in the day. Is this a day where, well, first of all, I'm not training that day. That helps me because I don't need to eat early in the day when I'm training, because I'm not training. So could I eat a little bit later in the morning and then kind of in the mid-afternoon and eat primarily protein and maybe have a salad with a bunch of vegetables that'll fill me up, drink a bunch of water, maybe have some fruit? Maybe it'll end up being that I need 600 or 800 calories earlier in the day just to stay satiated, in which case I might say, well, now my dinner is either going to go over by 400 calories or I can cut it back a bit. Like, I don't really need a 1,200 calorie meal. Knowing that I'm in a fat loss phase anyway, I could still enjoy myself on 1,000 calories or 800 calories, right, in one meal. I may not even feel like I want to eat that much because my stomach might be a little smaller from the first couple of days of the fat loss phase. Whatever. You've got flexibility. The other thing I can do is I can bank from the day before or the day after. However, banking is simply shifting calories a little bit. It is not either massively under eating ahead of time or massively under eating afterward to make up. It is not that. That can lead to disordered eating. That could lead to binge eating. That can lead to, this idea of cheat meals, which we don't subscribe to. This is a planned, controlled approach. So for me, that might look like Monday is, say, 100 calories less than my target, and Wednesday is 100 calories less than my target, so that Tuesday I have an extra 200 calories to work with. I would keep it in that range. It's pretty small. It's really just what you're doing anyway during your day-to-day, week-to-week. Is we never try to hit the targets exactly, right? That would make us go crazy if we had to get that precise. We just want to be in the ballpark, and so that the week is where we want it to be. Now, granted, this is a very precise challenge with a precise protocol of 45% deficit per day. But if you're a little bit higher one day, a little bit lower than another, and the 4 deficit days of the first week, the first 4 deficit days are still a 45% deficit overall, you're good. Just don't make the fluctuations too big. Okay. And I mentioned the protein preload of eating proteins and veggies earlier in the day, kind of keeping the calories lighter, but getting you filled up, drinking a lot of water, and so on. The other thing is eyeballing quantities. So this is just more of a long-term strategy I like to use for everyone. And that is, if you can always use grams to log your food at home, you can train yourself to understand what 100 grams of something looks like, that when you go out to eat, you can eyeball it. So even if you are, during the challenge, you're going to go out to eat and you're not quite sure of the portions, you can, if you spend the first, say, few days tracking everything in grams and starting to train yourself, you should have a pretty good idea. Now, for the challenge, feel free to throw a picture of your meal in the chat and have us do the guessing game. I love doing that. I do that with clients all the time, where I will kind of log it on my end in MacroFactor from their picture and then say, here's what I think it is, and kind of compare to what you thought it was, and we can get in the ballpark that way. Okay, so those are some basic strategies. As you can see, I have a lot more that you might find helpful, a lot of strategies for traveling, but just a couple I wanted to point out. First is just always think about, how would you eat at home? And it's not like when you're traveling or dining out, it doesn't have to be this massively different experience. I get that it's a little bit of an adventure and you want to try new things, and that's cool. That's great. I encourage that, but it can still be in the ballpark of what choices you would make based on your plan. And then always pack stuff. Like if you are going to go travel for the weekend, just bring something so that you can fall back on getting your protein, right? Getting your macros, protein powder, bars, macro-friendly snacks, whatever. Okay, so a lot more things under travel, and then parties. So again, parties and dining out have some overlap, but these are some extra things you might think of. Eating before you leave is like the preloading strategy, but in this case, I mean specifically right before you leave. Now that might sound like that takes the fun out of it, right? Because I'm looking forward to eating at the party. Fair, right? Like if the party is somewhat about the food, it's okay to want to enjoy the food. But if it's more about the experience and the social time and not really so much about the food, or the food's not going to be that great quality anyway, then consider you making the choice to eat ahead of time the things that you really want. And then at the party, you're just not thinking too much about food. Planning ahead. Again, I'm just going to hammer home that point of, setting limits, set limits on what you'll eat and drink at the event with a food plan, right? That's what we talked about earlier. Another thing you can do, I do this all the time, honestly, is just discreetly log as you go. And the reason this might be helpful, okay, is again, if you're at like a 4-hour party, 5-hour party, where it's just a lot of things going on, a lot of food and distractions, and it's easy to graze, just every now and then log what you've had so far real quick. Take 5 minutes and do it, maybe do it in the bathroom, whatever. So you don't, look like the weirdo, whatever makes sense for you. And it'll give you an awareness that, oh, wow, I've actually accumulated, 800 calories already. And it just gives you that awareness so that the impact of your choices, and whatever choices you continue to make, what impact they'll have. And that might alter some of your choices. Okay. Staying hydrated is a really great option. To always keep a glass of water with you. It kind of gives you that oral fixation. It has something in your hand. It fills you up. It keeps you occupied. And then you can combine that with this last item here of, alcohol-free options. It could be seltzer water. It could be alcohol-free options like alcohol-free beer, which has some calories, but it's a lot less than regular beer, so that you have something in your hand again. So these are just a few. I have a lot more here that you can check out when I send you the guide. And then remember the podcast episode 20 and 106. But I'll leave it at that, and I'll shoot this over as a video, and then I'll also throw a link to the guide for you. So hope you'll find that helpful. Let me know if you did and what strategies you are going to use.